I walked 10,000 steps a day for 10 days, okay? Today I'm at the gym, but let's backtrack to the 10 days of walking 10,000 plus steps. I wrote down everything. Well, almost everything. You know that feeling when you promise yourself you're going to start small? Yeah, apparently my version of small is 10,000 steps. On paper, it sounded cute. A little wellness challenge. Maybe I'd post a smug screenshot at the end of the day and call myself that girl. Fast forward 12 hours later, and my calves are filing HR complaints. 10,704 steps later, my ego has blisters. But let's start from the beginning. Day 1. Morning starts off strong. Alarm goes off at 6. I hit snooze twice because, obviously, discipline doesn't start before sunrise. Eventually, I drag myself out, throw on mismatched gym clothes, and open my strep tracker like it's a stock market app. 0. Great. Nothing like being reminded you've literally achieved nothing before breakfast. The first few hundred steps were glorious. I was gliding through the kitchen like a woman in a yogurt commercial, coffee in one hand, self-belief in the other. Then reality hit somewhere around step 850 when I realized the majority of my walk so far was me pacing between the toaster and the sink. Housework doesn't count as cardio, apparently. By 8 a.m., I decided to go for a real walk. Headphones in, playlist on, feeling unstoppable. 2 songs later, I was already reconsidering every life choice. There's something humbling about realizing your cardio fitness level is basically a potato with ambition. My smartwatch buzzed at 1,000 steps like, "Good job." And I'm like, "Mate, I'm wheezing. Calm down with the compliments." I took the scenic route around my neighborhood, which is code for I got lost but didn't want to admit it. Honestly, though, it wasn't bad. The air was cool, the sun was being dramatic through the trees, and I started noticing things I've literally walked past 100 times without seeing. Like the cafe that apparently sells almond croissants the size of my face. File that under reasons to walk again tomorrow. Around midday, I was sitting at my desk pretending to be productive, and my tracker said 2,300 steps. I thought that's basically halfway, until I remembered, no, that's not how math works. So I bribed myself with a second walk after lunch. I'll just do the quick loop kind of walk that somehow turns into a 90-minute journey of self-discovery and regret. Somewhere around 5,000 steps, I had a small existential crisis. Why am I doing this? Who even decided 10,000 steps is the magic number? Then, because I'm dramatic, I imagine a Rocky-style montage. Me power walking to victory while inspirational music plays and pigeons cheer. By 4 p.m., I hit 7,000 steps and felt weirdly proud, like I just unlocked a new level in a game called Mildly Fit Adult. But then, crash. The post-walk slump hit. My legs were fine, but my brain was screaming for a nap. This is the part no one talks about. Walking is sneaky cardio. It lulls you into thinking it's easy, and then suddenly you're horizontal on the sofa, rethinking your will to live. Dinner time. I checked the app. 8,200 steps. The goal was so close I could hear my watch whispering, "Come on, you coward." So after eating, I went back out. It was already dark. The street lights were doing their moody film thing, and it actually felt kind of peaceful. Just me, the pavement, and a mild sense of superiority over everyone still watching Netflix. I walked until my app dinged 10,704 steps. That tiny goal 100% circle popped up glowing like a medal of honor. I took a screenshot because obviously if it's not documented, it didn't happen. And here's the thing. I didn't just feel tired. I felt good. Like my brain had gone through a power wash. There's science behind that apparently. Walking 10,000 steps boosts circulation and endorphins, lowers cortisol, helps regulate blood sugar, and improves sleep quality. Translation, you literally think clearer, stress less, and sleep deeper, all from just moving your legs on purpose. It's wild how simple it is. By bedtime, I was half asleep in the shower, grinning like an idiot. Not because I suddenly loved fitness, but because I did the thing I said I'd do. No excuses, no tomorrow, just small steps. 10,704 of them that added up to proof I can keep a promise to myself. Benefit of walking today? Definitely mental clarity. The chatter in my head quieted somewhere around step 6,000, and by 10,000, I felt like I defragmented my own brain. Plus, I slept like a tranquilized panda. So yeah, day one, humbling, sweaty, slightly dramatic, but completely worth it. My legs are already threatening mutiny, but my mood, 10 out of 10. Tomorrow we go again. Maybe slower, maybe smarter, but definitely walking. Because apparently the best version of me doesn't come from a new diet or fancy gym plan. It starts with one very determined foot in front of the other. So, apparently my body didn't get the memo that we were doing 10,000 steps a day, not a single step more. Because today I somehow clocked 11,857. That's not discipline, that's GPS revenge. My watch basically went, "Oh, you think you're committed? Try this, champ." I woke up sore in places that don't even sound athletic. Like, why are my elbows tired? But you know what? I felt proud. Yesterday was a win, and that little green 100% circle on my app had me strutting around the kitchen like I just won Olympic gold in walking. Coffee tasted like victory. Toast tasted like potential. I even told myself, we're keeping this momentum going. Then I sneezed and felt my hamstrings tremble, which felt like foreshadowed. Morning walk. Part confidence, part comedy. The weather was perfect. Not too hot, not too cold, the kind of temperature that makes you believe you're the main character in a wellness ad. I popped my earbuds in and queued up a focus playlist. The steps added up fast. My watch buzzed at 3,000, and I thought, see, easy. That optimism lasted until 6,000 when I suddenly hit that invisible wall of, why am I doing this again? You know the one, the part where your brain tries to negotiate. We could stop at 8,000 and still technically be productive. Classic self-sabotage. So I bribed myself by calling a friend. She asked, "Are you out for a jog?" And I said, "No, but my ego is." We talked about life, work, the usual chaos, and before I knew it, I crossed 8,000. There's something magical about walking while chatting. Suddenly, problems feel smaller. It's free dopamine on demand. By lunchtime, I was sitting at 9,000 steps, feeling smug. I thought I'd stop there, but then my stomach decided it needed bubble tea. The shop was just far enough that going there would push me over 10,000. So technically, today's overachievement was powered by tapioca pearls. I regret nothing. Around 3 p.m., I looked at my tracker, 10,024 steps. I could have stopped. I should have stopped. But then I saw that graph, those little green bars peeking through the day, and something in me snapped. The type A gremlin inside whispered, "Make it symmetrical." Next thing you know, I'm pacing my hallway like I'm training for a stealth mission. That's how I hit 11,857. No finish line confetti, just me, my slippers, and a confused self watching me loop around the sofa. But let's talk benefits, because the sciencey part of my brain started noticing stuff today. Yesterday was mostly about surviving. Today, I felt lighter. Not just less bloated lighter, but my brain isn't clogged lighter. Turns out walking consistently can improve blood circulation to the brain, sharpen focus, and even boost memory. Which is ironic because I still forget why I walk into rooms, but apparently my hippocampus is thriving. There's also this sneaky emotional shift happening. The moment I step outside, my mood levels up. Not dramatically, but quietly. Like my body saying, okay, we're moving again. Time to reboot. I notice I'm not scrolling my phone less when I walk. Not because I'm disciplined, but because I can't trust myself not to trip. Evening rolled in, and for the first time, I didn't dread the last stretch. My body was sore, sure, but it felt awake. The muscles that screamed yesterday now whispered, "We got this." That's the underrated beauty of consistency. Your body adapts faster than your excuses do. After dinner, I checked the app one more time, 11,857 steps. The graph looked ridiculous, massive spikes around noon and again in the evening. Basically, my activity pattern says over-caffeinated squirrel. But seeing that 100% badge again, still satisfying. Then came the real reward, the post-walk calm. Heart rate down, brain quiet, no urge to doom scroll. I poured myself water like it was champagne and stood there thinking, why does something this simple feel this good? Maybe because walking reminds you that progress doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't need a new life plan, a rebrand, or a 4 a.m. wake-up club. You just need to keep moving forward, literally. And here's today's specific takeaway. Walking 10,000 plus steps helps regulate blood sugar and improves insulin sensitivity. Translation, my bubble tea guilt is canceled. Thank you, science. By bedtime, the soreness had turned into that pleasant ache that says, you did something today. My feet were tired, but my head felt clear, like I'd physically walked my stress out of my system. It's wild that motion can do what meditation apps promise but rarely deliver. Day 2 taught me that it's not about perfection or sticking to an exact number. It's about momentum. Some days you'll hit 9,000 and call it done. Others you'll overshoot without trying. What matters is that you keep showing up for yourself. One walk, one playlist, one random dog in shoes at a time. So yeah, 11,857 steps later, I'm tired, smug, and slightly addicted to the sound of my watch buzzing. Congratulations! Tomorrow might be slower, or it might be louder, but it'll definitely be forward. Because apparently, I'm the kind of person who can walk an extra 1,857 steps just to prove a point, and honestly, that feels pretty good. All right, day 3, and I think my legs are starting to unionize. Don't get me wrong, 11,034 steps looks good on paper, but in reality, my calves are whispering, call a lawyer. I woke up this morning thinking I'd glide through the day like a wellness influencer. Instead, I hobbled to the kitchen like someone twice my age who just lost a fight with leg day. But the tracker doesn't lie. It blinked at me. Goal 100%, which means somehow I did it again, even if part of me now walks like a penguin with commitment issues. Morning started weirdly optimistic. I put on my trainers before coffee, which for me is the equivalent of spiritual awakening. The air outside was that crisp, golden kind that smells like productivity. I thought, this is it. Today, I become one with nature. 2 minutes later, I stepped into a puddle and nature said, try again. Still, I kept moving. The first 1,000 steps were a power trip. I had my favorite playlist going, that one song that makes you feel like the star of a coming-of-age film. You know the vibe. Wind in your face, main character energy, convinced people are secretly inspired by your pace. Then reality set in around step 2,500 when I realized I was sweating through my hoodie and my only witness was a confused pigeon. But here's the thing, something magical started happening around step 4,000. My mood just lifted. No caffeine, no deep therapy session, just fresh air and forward motion. The world looked a little less annoying. There's actual science behind that, by the way. Walking increases blood flow to your brain, which triggers dopamine and serotonin release. Translation, you literally walk yourself happier. Who needs a mood ring when you have working legs? Midday came and I was feeling smug. I'd already clocked 6,000 steps and even convinced myself I deserved a pastry. Balanced living, right? Except I underestimated how heavy croissant guilt feels when you're halfway through a wellness challenge. So I turned guilt into fuel and took the long route home, the scenic detour that's 100% uphill and 80% regret. Somewhere near the top, I met an old man walking his dog. He smiled and said, "You're doing well." I don't know if he meant my walk or my survival, but either way, I nearly cried. Humans need more random encouragement like that. Around 3 p.m., I hit that quiet zone of walking where you stop checking your phone and start having deep thoughts that range from profound, like I should call my mom more, to completely unhinged, like what if clouds have feelings? That's the unexpected side effect of this challenge, the mental space. When your body's busy moving, your brain finally shuts up long enough for clarity to sneak in. By early evening, I was sitting around 9,000 steps, still short of the goal. I had two options, chill or commit. Naturally, I chose chaos. I decided to take an evening stroll just to round it up. and somehow ended up power walking like I was late for a flight that didn't exist. The sunset was ridiculously cinematic, all pink skies and silhouettes, and I had this silly grin thinking, okay, this challenge is actually doing something. The last 1,000 steps were pure stubbornness. My feet were tired, but that little green circle was taunting me. So I looped around my street twice, waving awkwardly at the same neighbor each time. I could practically hear her thinking, is she lost or just weird? Honestly, both. But when the app finally buzzed, 11,034 steps, it felt like victory with a side of blisters. Now, let's talk benefit of the day. Walking strengthens your heart and improves cardiovascular endurance. Basically, every step you take teaches your heart to work smarter, not harder. Regular walking can reduce your risk of heart disease, lower blood pressure, and boost oxygen flow. So yeah, today's cardio might have left me gasping, but it was literally upgrading my internal engine. Kinda cool when you think about it, like self-care disguised as mild suffering. When I got home, I stretched like an overcooked noodle, flopped on the floor, and stared at the ceiling in triumph. My watch still glowing that perfect 100% circle, my brain flooding with endorphins, my legs whispering obscenities. That's balance. And something hit me. This challenge isn't just about walking. It's about momentum, about showing up even when the novelty wears off. Day 1 was excitement. Day 2 was energy. Day 3, discipline. That's when it starts counting, when it's no longer shiny, but you do it anyway. I'll admit, part of me thought by now I'd be magically shredded or at least glowing like a skincare ad. Nope, still me, still sweaty, but here's what's changing, my mindset. The more I walk, the less I chase perfection. It's not about the exact number or the pace, it's about proving I can keep a promise to myself 3 days in a row. That's rare these days, and honestly, it feels incredible. So yeah, day 3, 11,034 steps, one near spiritual puddle moment, and a heart that's officially doing cardio without permission. My takeaway? Walking doesn't just make you fitter, it makes you softer where it matters. Calmer, kinder, more patient with yourself. Tomorrow, the goal stays the same, but maybe I'll stop trying to impress my watch and just walk because it feels good. Or maybe I'll accidentally hit 12,000 again. Who knows? All I know is this. Every day I move, I feel a little more like me, the version that keeps promises, finds peace mid-stride, and laughs when her legs threaten mutiny. Day 4, 10,696 steps. You'd think by now my body would be on board with this lifestyle, right? Wrong. My calves filed an official complaint this morning. The charge? Cruel and unusual movement before coffee. I woke up feeling like I'd walked through quicksand in my sleep. Every joint popped like microwave popcorn. Still, there was this tiny smug part of me that whispered, 4 days in a row, baby. It's intoxicating. It's also mildly delusional when your first step of the day sounds like bubble wrap. The weather was moody, overcast, that maybe I'll rain, maybe I'll just ruin your hair kind of vibe. Perfect metaphor for my energy levels. But the goal doesn't care about excuses. So I grabbed my trainers, muttered a pep talk about resilience, and limped into the morning like someone heading to war with gravity. First 1,000 steps, torture. I swear the sidewalk was uphill in every direction. But somewhere around 1,500, the stiffness started to loosen. The rhythm kicked in. You know that moment when the body finally stops protesting and the mind just quiets down? That's when walking turns from punishment into meditation. By 10 a.m., I'd clocked 3,000 steps. Not impressive, but respectable for someone still emotionally recovering from day 3's stair trauma. Then life happened. Meetings, messages, the kind of chaos that eats hours without permission. Suddenly, it was 7 p.m. and my tracker mocked me with 4,382 steps, less than halfway. I considered quitting early, telling myself rest is important too. But then I remembered, I didn't start this challenge to find comfort. I started to find consistency. So I did what any mildly dramatic person would do, threw on a hoodie, blasted my main character playlist, and stepped into the night like I was about to solve a mystery. At 6,000 steps, my mood started shifting. The air cooled down, the noise in my head turned into rhythm, and my thoughts, the overthinking, the planning, the endless what-ifs, all softened. Walking at night feels like therapy without the awkward small talk. You process life one step at a time. By 8:30 p.m., I was sitting at 8,900 steps. That's when the real battle began. The last 1,000. My brain wanted Netflix, my feet wanted mercy. My pride, it wanted that glowing 100% circle. So I did laps around my street 3 times, maybe 4, waving at the same confused neighbor again. We're at the is she okay stage of neighbor relations now. And then there it was, 10,696 steps. That satisfying buzz, goal complete. 4 days, 4 green circles. I might not be shredded, but I'm becoming something better, reliable. Tonight's benefit of the day, posture. Walking isn't just cardio, it's a full body alignment check. Every stride strengthens your core, loosens your hip flexors, and reminds your spine it's supposed to be vertical. When you walk regularly, you literally train your body to stand taller, and studies show improved posture can even boost confidence and reduce fatigue. Basically, every step is your skeleton saying, "Thanks for remembering I exist." I noticed it too. By the end of the walk, my shoulders had relaxed, my back felt lighter, and my head wasn't tilted at phone zombie angle for once. I wasn't just walking straight, I was walking proud. Back home, I stretched, grabbed water, and collapsed dramatically onto the couch like I just finished a marathon instead of a brisk stroll. My watch glowed 100%, and it felt like the universe gave me a digital fist bump. Here's the realization that hit me tonight. Motivation is loud, but discipline is quiet. The hype fades after day 2. The novelty wears off after day 3. Day 4? That's where the mental grit starts whispering, keep going. Not because it's easy, but because you said you would. Every step tonight was a small argument between my mind and my excuses. And I won. Barely, but I won. Tomorrow probably will hurt again. My legs will complain, my brain will bargain, and I'll still show up. Because this isn't just about steps anymore. It's about proving that progress doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it just shows up quietly as a stronger stride, a calmer breath, a straighter back. So, yeah, day 4, 10,696 steps, no puddles, no pastries, no miracles. Just me, the pavement, and a stubborn refusal to break the streak. Because at this point, the challenge isn't about walking, it's about walking through resistance, through excuses, through that voice that says, tomorrow's fine. Tomorrow's not fine. Today counts, and I'm counting every step. Who even am I right now? 14,635 steps. I started this challenge trying to hit 10,000 a day. Now I'm casually overshooting like a Fitbit-sponsored Olympian who lost track of time. Except I didn't plan any of this. I just woke up stupidly early. Like, why is the moon still up early? And decided to move before my brain could object. The tracker graph proves it, a ridiculous spike in the pre-dawn hours. Apparently, I've evolved into that person who walks while the world's still buffering. By 6 a.m., I'd already hit 4,000 steps and felt smug enough to consider writing a self-help book titled How to Outrun Your Excuses. I even saw the sunrise, which was equal parts cinematic and disrespectful. Too bright for someone who hasn't had caffeine. Still, I get it now. Morning walks hit different. There's this raw clarity that sneaks in before the day starts throwing curveballs. I realized I've been moving through life in constant reaction mode. Emails, messages, schedules. But out there, in that pale golden quiet, it was just me setting the tone. Not responding, but deciding. By 9 a.m., I'd crushed 7,000 steps, showered, and felt like a fully functioning adult, which honestly should come with a medal. My productivity skyrocketed. It's not magic, it's chemistry. Morning movement spikes your cortisol and serotonin in a balanced way, basically jumpstarting alertness and mood without over-caffeinating your soul. Around lunchtime, I slowed down. Not because I was tired, because I could. That's the paradox. The more I walk, the more energy I have. Somewhere between step 8,000 and 9,000, I realized I wasn't chasing numbers anymore. I was chasing that feeling of flow. The way your body syncs with your breath, and suddenly everything, from your to-do list to your overthinking, feels manageable. Evening rolled around, and instead of crashing, I laced up again. Another burst. That's the second spike on the trucker. I wasn't chasing 10,000. I was chasing calm. The city was glowing, music in my ears, wind in my hair, full main character moment. A dog barked at me, probably jealous of my step count. Understandable. Here's the cool part. Today's benefit of the day is metabolism. Walking, especially in the morning, wakes up your metabolic system. It tells your body, yo, we're burning fuel today. Research shows regular walkers experience better glucose regulation and fat oxidation, meaning you're not just burning calories, you're teaching your body to use energy smarter. Translation, your body becomes less storage unit, more efficient engine. And yeah, it shows. My posture's taller, my energy lasts longer, and even my cravings have chilled out. I used to hit a 3 p.m. slump and need sugar like Wi-Fi needs signal. Not today. I didn't crash. I cruised. But here's the part they don't tell you. Progress is sneaky. It doesn't show up with confetti. It shows up when your body stops fighting the habit and starts craving it. I caught myself tonight, walking just because it felt right. At 14,000 steps, my legs should have been screaming. Instead, they were humming. The good kind of ache. The one that says, we're adapting. That's what growth feels like. Discomfort transforming into capability. When I finally got home, I looked at that glowing 100% circle, same as every other day, but it meant more this time. Because today wasn't about pushing, it was about pacing, about realizing I don't have to conquer every day. Sometimes I just have to meet it halfway, sneakers first. 5 days in, I'm starting to see the real pattern. Day 1 was excitement. Day 2 was energy. Day 3 was discipline. Day 4 was endurance. Day 5, alignment. Body, mind, movement. All in the same direction for once. And maybe that's what push past possible really means. Not breaking yourself to prove a point, but proving you can keep showing up long enough to redefine what possible even looks like. Tomorrow might not be another 14,000. Might be 13, might be 12. Doesn't matter. What matters is I've stopped negotiating with my excuses. The steps happen because they're supposed to. So yeah, day 5, 14,635 steps, and an accidental personality shift. I think I might be becoming the kind of person who sets alarms on purpose. Terrifying. But honestly, I like it here. Because every morning I move, I don't just start the day, I own it. Day 6. 10,262 steps. And for the first time this week, I didn't want to move. My legs were fine, my heart was fine, my soul was buffering. You know that kind of fatigue that isn't physical, the one that feels like your motivation is running at 3% and you forgot the charger at home? That was me. I opened my tracker this morning and saw yesterday's 14,635 glowing back at me like an overachiever I couldn't compete with. My brain immediately went, cool, let's do literally anything but that. Still, 6 days in means the habit is stronger than the mood. I put on my trainers before my excuses got too loud and stepped outside into the kind of morning that felt like it hadn't had coffee yet either. Cloudy, slow, unbothered. Perfect match for my energy. The first few hundred steps were sluggish. Even my playlist felt tired. But somewhere between 800 and 1,000 steps, I realized something. I wasn't supposed to be chasing yesterday. I was just supposed to keep going today. That's the tricky part of progress. It turns into pressure if you're not careful. So I slowed down, literally. I took the pressure off the pace, the posture, the perfect step count. Just walked, breathed, listened to the rhythm of my feet and the hum of the morning. And weirdly enough, that's when my brain started to reboot. By 3,000 steps, I noticed colors again. I caught myself smiling for no reason. Not the big cinematic grin, just the quiet kind that sneaks up on you when you remember life's not all deadlines and to-do lists. By 6,000 steps, I was back in the groove. My body had hit airplane mode, not disconnected, but peacefully offline. No pings, no notifications, no noise, just presence. It's funny. I started this challenge thinking I was doing something for my body, but it's becoming clearer each day that it's saving my mind. The steps are just the excuse to shut the world out for a bit. Midday hit and I looked down to see 7,500 steps. A small miracle, considering I'd mentally retired this morning. So I rewarded myself the only way a human can. Snacks. Balanced, of course. Mostly. By the time the evening rolled in, I was sitting at 9,000. Close enough to be proud, far enough to be tempted to quit. But that little green circle taunts me now. It's not even about health anymore. It's about principle. So I grabbed my gym gear and went for a short walk on the treadmill. Just 15 minutes to seal the deal. Somewhere around the final few hundred steps, I realized today's lesson. Rest isn't quitting, it's recovery. You can't push past possible if you're running on empty. You can't grow if you never pause long enough to absorb what you've done. Every step isn't supposed to be epic. Some are just maintenance. So, today's benefit of the day is sleep. Regular walking doesn't just tire you out, it regulates your circadian rhythm. It helps your body produce melatonin at the right time, lowers stress hormones, and physically cues your system to rest deeper. Translation, you don't just fall asleep faster, you heal while you do it. That clicked for me tonight. My mind's been quieter lately, less racing, less overthinking at 1 a.m. It's like each day's steps are untangling the static in my brain, one walk at a time. When I hit that final buzz, 10,262, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt grounded, calm, the kind of tired that feels earned, not exhausted. That's what day 6 is. The calm after the chase. The point in any challenge where you stop performing and start being. Because honestly, this week hasn't been about steps at all. It's been about trust. Trusting that even the small, quiet days count. That you don't lose progress just because you're moving slower. That you can still be consistent on days you don't feel inspired. In a way, those are the most important days. The uninspired ones, the tired ones, the days you walk out of habit, not hype. That's where transformation actually hides, in the boring bits. So yeah, day 6, 10,262 steps. No sunrise epiphany, no cinematic moment, no dramatic victory lap. Just me showing up at 70% and proving that 70% still moves the needle. And that's the real win. Knowing that I can still move even when I don't feel like moving. That consistency isn't about perfection. It's about choosing to show up anyway. Tomorrow's the last day of week 1, and I don't know what the numbers will say, but I know what they'll mean. Progress isn't measured in steps. It's measured in the spaces between them, the ones you wanted to stop, but didn't. So, I'm ending day 6 with the same thought I started it with. Tired, human, and quietly proud. Because even on the slow days, I'm still walking forward. And maybe that's the point. Day 7. Somewhere between step 1 and step 13,000, I realized this wasn't a walking challenge. Wow, 13,073 steps. It was a becoming challenge. Let me explain. I started this week thinking I was just going to hit a number, 10,000 steps a day. Simple, quantifiable, neat little dopamine hit every time that green circle hit 100%. But 7 days later, I'm starting to understand it's not the steps that change you. It's the person you have to become to take them. This morning started differently. No dragging, no internal debate, just movement. The habit's officially stronger than the hesitation. I laced up my shoes before checking my phone, which, if you know me, is nothing short of a personality plot twist. Outside, the air felt sharp and clean, like it had been ironed overnight. My body moved without protest. My legs didn't whisper threats. Even my brain seemed quiet. It's like every walk this week slowly turned down the background noise. By 9 a.m., I was already at 4,000 steps, steady, not striving. There was no main character playlist today, no cinematic motivation, just me. That's when it hit me. Progress doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just shows up as peace. Around lunchtime, I hit 8,000 steps and realized I hadn't checked my tracker once. No pressure, no counting, just living. I wasn't walking to earn anything today. Not food, not rest, not approval. I was walking because my body wanted to move, not because my brain said it had to. That's growth. Subtle, sneaky, spectacular growth. By evening, I was already over the 10,000 mark, but something in me wanted to keep going. Not to prove a point, just because I could. I ended the day at 13,073 steps. No grand finale, no forced hype, just quiet pride and a very content kind of exhaustion. Now, let's talk about today's benefit of the day. Confidence. Not the loud kind, not the look at me, I'm crushing goals kind. The quiet, cellular level confidence that comes from doing what you said you would do over and over again. Science backs it up. Consistent physical movement boosts dopamine and endorphins, sure, but it also rewires your brain's reward system. Every time you follow through, you teach your mind that you can be trusted. That's real confidence, not the kind that needs applause, but the kind that builds peace. And that's exactly what I felt today. Peace. I looked back at my tracker, 7 glowing green circles in a row. 7 little symbols of showing up. Some days easy, some days chaotic, all of them worth it. Day 1 was excitement. Day 2 was energy. Day 3 was discipline. Day 4 was endurance. Day 5 was alignment. Day 6 was recovery. Day 7, clarity. Because here's the truth. The steps were never the point. They were the gateway, the thing that got me out of my head and into my body, the thing that reminded me that progress doesn't live in perfection, it lives in persistence. I think that's the biggest lie we tell ourselves, that change has to feel massive to matter. But it doesn't. It's built in these small, stubborn moments of movement, the ones no one claps for, the ones that happen after a long day under dim streetlights when no one's watching but you. 7 days ago, I was just trying to hit a number. Now I'm hitting something much deeper: momentum. And here's the thing about momentum. Once it's in motion, it doesn't stop easily. You don't have to sprint anymore. You just have to keep stepping. When I got home tonight, I didn't flop onto the couch like I did on day 3. I just stood there for a second, breathing, calm, steady, grounded. The circle on my watch was full, but so was something inside me. Week 1 is done. 7 days, over 70,000 steps, and one realization that's going to stick. You don't find transformation in the finish line. You build it, one small, consistent step at a time. So yeah, day 7, 13,073 steps, one clear mind, and a completely different version of me than the one who started. Tomorrow begins week 2. Same goal, new mindset, because this isn't a challenge anymore. It's a lifestyle, and I'm just getting started. Day 8. 17,938 steps. That's not a typo. That's a borderline cardio manifesto. Week 2 started like the sequel to a movie that actually outdoes the original. The type where the main character, slightly bruised, definitely wiser, walks in slow motion through a sunrise like, yeah, I've seen some things. Except instead of slow motion, it was me sprint walking across my apartment because I couldn't find my left sock. Again. Still, day 8's out different. The body wasn't fighting anymore. The mind wasn't negotiating. It was like the whole system finally decided, okay, fine, we're walkers now. Let's do this. My brain usually wakes up slower than my body, but today, the fog lifted fast. I could feel the difference. Thoughts were sharper, ideas smoother. It's like someone had hit refresh inside my head. Somewhere around step 5,000, I started connecting dots between things I'd been stuck on for weeks. Work stuff, content ideas, even conversations I'd been avoiding. It's wild how walking gives your brain space to breathe. No pressure, no screams, just rhythm. Every step is like shaking the snow globe of your thoughts. The chaos settles, and suddenly you can see again. By noon, I was at 9,000 steps and still going. Normally, this is where I check my tracker, see that 100% circle, and call it a win. But not today. Today had momentum. I didn't want to stop. I wanted to see what else my body and brain could do together when they weren't at war. At 12,000 steps, it hit me. This was flow state, the kind athletes and artists talk about. You're moving, but you're not forcing it. Thinking, but not overthinking. You're just in it. And that's where the magic happens. I started thinking about how often we look for breakthroughs in big moments, new jobs, fresh starts, motivational speeches, when really they happen in tiny steps we almost don't notice. Somewhere between step 12,001 and 13,000, I got a flash of an idea for next week's video. It just downloaded itself into my head mid-walk. No caffeine, no pressure, just clarity. Like the universe finally had room to get a word in because I was too busy walking to scroll. Science time. You know I have to do this. When you walk, your brain releases BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a literal fertilizer for your neurons. It boosts creativity, problem-solving, and memory. Basically, walking turns your brain into a brainstorming machine. So yeah, today's benefit of the day, creativity, because nothing gets your ideas unstuck like moving your feet. By 8 p.m., I was sitting at 17,938 steps, nearly double the goal. And honestly, it didn't even feel forced. It felt like my brain was pulling me forward as much as my legs. Day 8 reminded me of something wild. We live in a world that constantly demands attention. Screens, notifications, opinions, noise. But walking gives you space again. It's the simplest form of rebellion against distraction. When you move your body, your thoughts get organized. When you get organized, you get creative. And when you get creative, you start building things that matter. So maybe that's what Push Past Possible is really about now. Not just pushing through physical limits, but mental ones too. Not about proving something, but unlocking something. I think that's why today felt so good, because it wasn't about discipline anymore. It was about discovery. Every step was a conversation with clarity. Every mile, a meeting with myself I didn't know I needed. By the time I got home, I didn't even rush to check my tracker. I already knew I'd crushed it, but more importantly, I'd connected. Day 8 isn't just the start of week 2. It's the first day my brain and body started working as a team. So yeah, 17,938 steps, a few fresh ideas, and a mind that finally feels like it's walking in the same direction as my goals. That's progress. Tomorrow we keep building on it. Because now it's not about hitting 10,000 steps. It's about hitting clarity, focus, and flow one walk at a time. Day 9. The steps are still stacking, the calves are still complaining, and my watch, that smug little circle, hit 100% again like it's nothing. 13,575 steps, which is basically walking from my house to enlightenment and back. Today was about breaking cycles. See, I woke up feeling off. You know those mornings when your brain feels like 20 open browser tabs, none of them loading? That was me. The kind of mental fog where even making breakfast feels like a group project you didn't sign up for. So I did the only thing that's actually been working lately. I walked. No music, no podcast, just me and the sound of my shoes negotiating with gravity. The first few hundred steps were awkward, like my body was buffering. My thoughts were heavy, tumbling over each other. Deadlines, messages I hadn't replied to, the never-ending list of shoulds. But around step 2,000, something shifted. The noise started to fade. My breath fell into rhythm, and I could feel my body doing what it was designed to do, move me through the mess. Here's what they don't tell you about walking. It's sneaky therapy. You think you're just getting your steps in, but really, you're processing. Every exhale is a release. Every stride is a reset. By step 4,000, I was starting to feel human again. The tension in my jaw softened. My brain wasn't chewing on problems anymore. It was digesting them. There's science behind this. Of course there is. Walking reduces cortisol, the stress hormone that basically turns you into a short-fused, snack-craving gremlin. When you walk, your body clears it out, balances serotonin and dopamine, and gives your nervous system a much-needed chill command. So yeah, today's benefit of the day, emotional balance and stress relief. Because walking doesn't just move your legs, it moves your mood. Midway through the walk, I cut myself smiling for no reason. No playlist hype, no external validation, just this quiet, stable contentment. The kind that says, you're okay. You've always been okay. And that hit deep, because somewhere in this challenge, walking stopped being about steps and started being about stillness. The paradox, right? The more I move, the calmer I feel. By 9 a.m., I'd already clocked half my steps. Then life happened. Work, messages, calls, the usual tornado. But this time, I didn't spiral with it. I noticed how grounded I felt, how steady. The walk had already done its job, regulated my mood before the chaos even began. By late afternoon, I was sitting at 10,000 steps, goal met, circle glowing. But something in me said, keep going. Not from pressure, but from peace. I wasn't chasing the number, I was chasing the feeling. So I did another loop, then another. Ended up with 13,575. Somewhere between step 12,001 and 13,000, I realized this challenge is teaching me emotional resilience disguised as cardio. Every day, I'm proving to myself that I can show up, even when I don't feel like it. And that's emotional fitness. It's wild how something so simple can rewire how you handle life. Because when you walk through stress, literally walk through it, it doesn't stick the same way. You stop reacting from panic and you start responding from presence. By the time I got home, I wasn't tired. I was light, like I'd emptied out the noise. Even the air felt different, softer, quieter, kind of like my headspace. I sat down and looked at my step count. and smiled. 13,575. And not one of them wasted. That's the thing about momentum. Once you build it, it starts carrying you forward even on the days when you'd rather just not. And maybe that's what balance really looks like. Not perfect calm, not zero stress, but the ability to return to center when life inevitably wobbles. So yeah, day 9 wasn't flashy, just me, my sneakers, and a brain that finally feels like it's breathing again. And honestly, that's the win I didn't know I needed. Because this journey stopped being about proving I can do more. Now it's about feeling less pulled apart by everything. Step by step, I'm finding my center. And that's the real flex. Walking helps regulate cortisol, improves mood stability, and increases serotonin, making it one of the simplest, most effective ways to manage stress naturally. Day 9 takeaway: some days you walk for fitness, some days you walk for peace. Today, I walked myself back to balance. Tomorrow, we keep it going, maybe slower, maybe steadier, but always forward. Day 10. 10,000 steps again. 10 days straight of showing up no matter how tired, how late, or how easy it would have been to say tomorrow. This isn't about numbers anymore. It never really was. It's about what happens when you stop negotiating with yourself and you just move. Because every step taught me something. By day 8, it stopped being about the challenge and started being about who I was becoming. 10,544 steps today. But that number doesn't even tell the story. It doesn't show the 10 nights I almost quit, the mornings where my body said no, but my mind whispered, keep going. It doesn't capture the discipline forming, the identity shifting, and the quiet pride of knowing you did what you said you do. You see, most people think transformation comes from big moments, but it's the small ones that build you. The small choices repeated relentlessly until one day you look back and realize you've become someone unstoppable. That's what push past possible means. So yes, again, it's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent when it counts, when no one's watching, when the world's asleep, when it's raining and cold and you could have chosen comfort, but you didn't. You chose movement. You chose progress. You chose you. And that choice, it compounds. Every step added up, not just on the tracker, but in my mindset, in my focus, in how I see myself. Now it's not about hitting 10,000 steps anymore. It's about who I had to become to make 10,000 steps feel like the baseline. Because once you push past possible, you can't go back. You've seen too much, felt too much, grown too much. This was never just a walking challenge. It was a declaration that discipline wins, that movement heals, that consistency rewires you. 10 days, over 100,000 steps, one promise kept. So here we are, at the end of day 10. The finish line isn't where it ends, it's where it begins. Because the next time I walk, it won't be about catching up. It'll be about who I've become while moving forward. Momentum over motivation. Motivation fades. Momentum compounds. Once you start stacking small wins, the movement becomes who you are, not something you have to find. When I started this challenge, it was about hitting 10,000 steps a day. But looking back at this screen now, all those green shoes in a row, it's not the numbers that hit me, it's the story they tell. Every line here, a day I showed up. Some were smooth, some were messy. And even this one here, a few days later, 20,292 steps, felt like I could have kept walking forever. That day wasn't planned. It just happened. Because once consistency becomes your baseline, extra stops feeling impossible. This screen isn't proof of perfection. It's proof of persistence, of ordinary days stacked into something that looks a lot like discipline. Because that's the secret no one tells you. You don't need to change your whole life overnight. You just need to keep your promise today, and then do it again tomorrow. So yeah, the steps are done, but the story, it keeps going. Every goal you chase, every habit you build, every small win, they all start with the same move, a single step forward. Push past possible.